So hello and welcome back to the Her Tech Life podcast. I am really excited to be welcoming both Ria and Leanne on today. Hi Ria and Leanne, how are you both?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I'm really well, thanks. Excited to be here.
It's lovely to have you. How's your week been going so far? I know it's still early in the week, but
my week has not gone too bad, apart from the fact I have got a bit of a heavy cold. My daughter is back at school. So yeah, it seems like a bit more of a normal week for me this week.
That's good. What about you, Leanne?
Yeah, I'm having a very good week. I'm off to Ibiza on Friday, so.
Oh, nice. That is a good week then. You're in countdown mode then. Yeah.
I'm on
I've got a
countdown.
couple of days off next week, so I can't wait. It always feels nice when you've got a short week coming up, doesn't it? Even if it's just a little break. So, well, thank you both so much for coming. So it's really exciting because you're both from InnovateHer, but both in completely different roles. So I'm going to ask you to just start by introducing yourselves before we go into any of the questions. So Ria, would you like to go first? Just tell us a little about you and your role.
Yep, sure. So yeah, I'm Ria. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at InnovateHer. So I guess my role is to sort of look after the organisation and the team on a day-to-day basis. So there's the people part, there's the programs that we run, and kind of just like all the support and the infrastructure that allows us to do what it is that we do and impact the students that we want to impact.
Brilliant. And what about you, Leanne?
So I'm product manager at InnovateHer, and I'm responsible for what we call a product, but it's our learning platform, which is on the domain online.innovateher.co.uk, and it's where our students and teachers log in to access our courses, to learn more about technology and why they should or might consider a career in technology, so that we fulfill our mission statement, which is to get girls ready for the technology industry. They learn with us to hopefully get them inspired and engaged. And it's basically there as a platform to really kind of bolster our mission and you know, access or increase our student impact.
Yeah, I love that. And Ria, did you want to tell us a little bit more about InnovateHer as an organisation in general? Obviously, Leanne's touched on it a little bit with your mission, so it might be nice to build on that a bit.
Yeah, definitely. So our mission is to get girls ready for the tech sector. And then the other part of that is to get the tech sector ready for girls. So we do that in two different ways. So one of the ways, like Leanne spoke about, is we work with students, primarily girls, but boys as well, in schools, a range of ages from roughly 14 to 17. There are core ages, but we have actually started doing even younger than that as well.
Oh, that's really exciting.
Yes, very exciting. So we run programs, whether it's on our platform, like Leanne spoke about, or whether it's face-to-face, somebody from the InnovateHer team, or more often than not, one of our ambassadors. We've got over 100 ambassadors now that have signed up and volunteer with us. They might run inspiring assemblies, role model talks, or they might go through one of our programs on the platform to just be inspired, to learn about, to hear more about the tech sector. So that's like one part of what we do, and that's the real core of our mission and vision. The other part, and I suppose what makes us quite unique, is that our funding comes from the partners that we work with. So as well as them being invested in and inspired to work with sort of that next generation of females in the tech sector, we also sort of join the two together. So we provide them insight and support so they can make their processes, their procedures, what they do in their organizations more inclusive for girls in the tech sector. So that can be right at entry point, but that also is all the way through. So we sort of provide a service to them, but at the same time, they are linked in with schools that are normally local to them in the area, so they can get hands-on experience and speak to the students, work with the students, deliver programs for the students. So that's the sort of two parts that we are of InnovateHer.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm really glad to, as an ambassador, have delivered some of those inspiring assemblies you mentioned. It's really great to be able to have an impact in education, because obviously it's like you said, it's those two kind of approaches to it, isn't it? You've got the business side, but you've also got the education side. So it's great that you work with both.
Definitely. And I think the student, for organizations that don't perhaps work with students, for them to get insight into the student's voice, what the students are looking for, what they're wanting in future careers, what questions they've got, is so helpful, particularly for large organizations that might have apprenticeship opportunities as well, for them to sort of hear from those students before that point that they would, you know, come on as an apprentice, is so valuable for them. Plus it's the insight that it gives the students and inspires them, because that's what we want to do, hopefully, is inspire them.
So, yeah, no, absolutely. And improve that workforce balance that we desperately need. So yeah, absolutely. So as part of this podcast, I always like to get to know the guests a little bit of kind of who they are outside of work, just because I think it's important to showcase lots of different people work in tech. There's no kind of one stereotype sort of thing. So Leanne, did you want to start first by telling us a little bit about who you are outside of work, or things that you like to do?
Yeah, so I try to just be really outdoorsy, actually, and I'm very community driven. So I'm not really interested in because we spend so much time on laptops, and I have done like throughout my whole career, I kind of do the opposite to that. So
yeah,
I run, it's just that balance, isn't it? I think that's probably really common, but yeah, I love water sports, I love camping. I'm a mum, I have a little boy, and so I try to get him excited about that stuff as well. I love trying new things, specifically with water sports, and yeah, like I said, I run a little sewing community, so
nice.
In my local village, which is here in Merseyside, and yeah, it just fills me full of joy. I think now I'm in my mid-30s. I think that's what was missing in my 20s, you know, the community work and kind of getting to know local people and doing it, you know, things that you're passionate about on the side of work. So I kind of built that up in my late 20s into my mid-30s, and it's worked really nicely. So yeah, I think that's me outside of work.
No, I love that. Any water sports in particular?
Yeah, I started paddleboarding when I've dabbled surfing, would love to surf properly, but you do need to live beside, you know,
it's a bit limiting,
which I don't. But I've been on like a women's surf retreat, and I do try really hard. I love paddleboarding. I learned windsurfing because that's all accessible here on the Wirral.
Yeah, of course.
So it's really good for those sports. So yeah, I do things for fun now. I think in school you're taught like you should be really good at something, but no one ever is like, actually just do things that make you feel alive, make you feel good. So yeah, those are the...
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Find those things that bring you joy. I love that.
Yeah.
And what about you, Ria? Can you tell us a little about you outside of work?
Yeah, definitely. There's similarities actually with Leanne. So first and foremost, yeah, I'm a mum to a 7-year-old daughter. I'm a solo mum as well, so quite a lot of my time is taken up with parenting, which is lovely. I now live down southwest of the country on the coast, so a lot of our time is outside, whether it's at the beach, in any type of weather, on the moor, in the mountains, anything like that. Like, we do love being outside as well. And I'd forgotten, Leanne, that you did a surfing retreat, because I went to the beach with some friends the other weekend, and they're all surfers, and I was like, not surfing, because I'm not a surfer, but I was like, maybe that's the thing that I'll learn. Maybe that will be my thing for this year. So I might do that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
get tips from Leanne.
yeah. I have tried it before when I was younger, and I actually found it really hard. But yeah, maybe
So hard.
give it another go. So yeah, that's sort of me. I love learning, but particularly anything. Probably about 10 years ago, I moved into a different company, and a big piece of that company was sort of supporting founders around their mindset. And I got really into how the brain works, why you do what you do, why you think what you think, and all of that. And I will always be listening to a podcast, reading a book, or anything around mindset. I find it fascinating, and I drag it into work as much as possible with the team. And similar, yeah. Again, I'm really passionate around like social impact, but particularly around young people and having a positive impact on their lives, and young people having access to the opportunities. That's a really big thing for me, around the opportunities that they can tap into. And I think everybody should be on a level playing field for those opportunities. That's not the reality, and that isn't the case, but that's a big driver for me. So I kind of teamed that over the years with different volunteer work that I do, which actually one of the reasons that I, sort of then decided to make the shift to working with InnovateHer.
Yeah, I was going to say the values really much, don't they, with the mission, of InnovateHer as well.
Yeah. So that's me.
Yeah, I love that. So can you tell us a little bit about being a COO, say how you got into the role, and then what have been some of the challenges and benefits?
Yes, that was it. Yeah, sure. So I actually was, when you sent this question over, I was talking about it with some friends the other month. So I had some ideas in my head. I think it's a bit of a balancing act, because COO it's around operations essentially. And when you think about operations, you are more often than not drawn into the day-to-day of the business because of how it's operating and how it's running. But from a COO perspective, you're kind of balancing sort of the logistics and the day-to-day, but also bringing that vision to life. And so it is, and I think when I kind of was talking about that the other month with the friends, it really felt right, like the two different parts. So I would definitely describe it as that. And I guess the challenge is making sure you've got enough time in both areas, and you're in the right area at the right time, because sometimes you absolutely need to be looking at what is a more efficient way to do things within the business, or what do the team need. But you also need to spend that time looking ahead. And I work really closely with Chelsea on the strategy and the vision. So yeah, it's a balancing act of being in those two different places. In terms of how I came into the role, so I've led teams for quite a number of years now, right actually from when I first left university and started working. I actually started in retail on the shop floor, was like a manager, assistant manager in training. And that was just something that I came out of university. I'd done that for a job at university, and I was like, well, I know I can do it, so I'll carry on. And it was, it was a bit of time to like think about, right, what do I want to do? My degree was in politics and international politics. Not business related, and it was really meant to be sort of a bit of a stopgap, as a way to get some money. And I really enjoyed it, and I had a team, or had some people in a team that I was responsible for, and then just different opportunities came up that allowed me to sort of move up through that. And then I moved over into international retail, which was amazing because it involved so much travel, working with loads of great different brands. And I was in London for a number of years doing that. But it started, retail is a hard industry, and it started to just probably not be the thing for me anymore. So at that point, I moved on to working with founders and with startups. And I think it was there that I got more exposure to different individuals who had an idea and were using tech to sort of make a positive impact. And it really resonated with me. And I loved that. And just every time we would sit down and talk to them or anything, I would just leave feeling really inspired. So that was then where I started to sort of move more into working for an organization that's more purpose-led, working specifically with young people, and where I got to sort of see, like I do now in the COO role, the need to focus on the vision, but also the need to work with the day-to-day, the operations, the logistics and everything, and kind of got that complete overview of a business. Looking back, as they always say, now it makes perfect sense and you can see that thread throughout. But when you're in it, I've really just been led around what's kind of felt right for me to do and what I've enjoyed doing. But yeah, there obviously has been a bit of a pattern there.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Yeah, it's interesting what you mentioned about that challenge of balancing everything, because it must be really tempting to kind of focus on almost like the firefighting aspects, I guess, like what needs fixing and doing right now, when actually, like you say, that bigger picture is more important. It's just as important. How do you find that balance, would you say?
I do, yeah. Diary blocking helps. As in, like, actually physically putting time in to do those different things. And I do find working with Chelsea helps, because we probably help keep each other accountable for that more vision, strategic, focused time, because we're working on it together. So we know we need to block half a day out, or we know we need to block a certain day out here. And just having that rhythm that we've got. So we have quarterly board meetings, we have monthly non-exec meetings, and we're quite strict around the things that we talk about in those. We could probably bring loads of operational challenges, but is that really going to help? Is that going to add, the real value when we've got these people in a room for 2 hours? Probably not. So it's also using that rhythm that we've put in place and being really strict and using that for the more future focused conversations and discussions. Yeah, that's probably the main things that we do.
Yeah, no, that was really good advice. Thank you. And what about you, Leanne? Can you tell us a bit about your role? So, what have been some of the challenges and benefits and how you got into it as well?
I think the challenges of product is, even like outside of InnovateHer, is being given a product. So say the product exists. So say like the platform or the website or the app exists. And you will have that product and you will have either a monetary goal, or you will have, say, a reach goal, like you want X number of people to spend this much time on that product, for example. It's how you get to that goal. You have to strategically plan how you can turn that around, working with like the team that you have. So that will be within the budget that you have, within the software that you have to improve that product. And you have to create what is called a roadmap to try and get there. So I would say the role is analytical and creative, strategic and quite commercial. So you kind of have to combine those 4 things to be good at it, I guess, and adapt to whatever company or product you end up working on. So at InnovateHer, we're a social enterprise, so budgets are small, but that doesn't restrict you in the sense of what you can build and get out there and improve on.
I guess that's where the creativity comes in as well. Then it's how you use limited resources, like a smaller budget, or
Yeah, and it's about also getting your team, no matter how small they are or how big they are, to buy into what you can foresee. So like, if you think that you can achieve something in 6 months or 12 months and that's the right strategy or that's the right idea, it's about getting people to buy into it. So being quite I think my approach with product is try to come up with a plan or a strategy that's like I'm passionate about. So I as a person have to like what I'm working on. So if I don't, then I just get really bored. I don't work there anymore.
No, I can understand that. I guess it's harder as to motivate other people if you're not motivated yourself. So.
Yeah, and I think product, you can't. The best product managers and the best like head of products or directors of products like genuinely probably love what they're working on.
Yeah,
because they are quite influential, I would say, in like getting people to buy into it and believe it. And you also get a lot of trust. You do get a lot of trust in product, I think, to deliver what you said you were going to do.
Yeah.
So you're
so if you're
responsible
interested,
for
you
that.
hold that accountability a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the challenge, and I guess the opportunity with the role. You can take it quite far, and you can manage large teams if that's what you want to do. How I got into it was like similar to what Ria said. When you look back at it's all pieced together. So when I entered tech, which it's now, called, I had just graduated with bucket loads of ambition. Like when I was 16, I was like, I'm owning a company and I will be CEO of that company. And I don't know where that drive came from, but it was there. And from my UCAS application to, finishing university, like I worked every summer in internships, and I worked throughout university just because I truly believe, like, if you work hard, you'll get there, that kind of thing. And I've always been interested in business. I actually did a BTEC, which no longer exists. I did a BTEC in business, which had what would have been called IT modules in there. And I just naturally gravitated towards what is technology and IT. And the same happened at university. So like the modules that I was most interested in were the IT-based modules, and that's what I specialized in. But what's kind of mixed in with technology is kind of what Ria touched on, is kind of the bigger picture. And what I got to learn at university was all about the digital divide and consumer behavior and why we buy what we buy, and kind of the psychology behind tech products, which I'm really passionate about because I like tech products to have certain amount of ethics, because I think it's quite an industry that's quite lucrative and does take a lot from people without them sometimes realizing. So all those little stepping stones, I accidentally, like, desperately was looking for a job after university in Manchester, which was really renowned at the time for digital work, probably second to London in that sense.
Yeah.
And I'd done a load of free internships and I couldn't afford to do that anymore. And I'd done a lot of work in advertising agencies and was always getting kind of placed. Well, I would have done anything. Like I can even remember sticking stickers on tennis rackets for like Wimbledon, like doing all these odd jobs.
Something, yeah.
Definitely a grafter, but yeah, I kept getting kind of pushed towards these digital roles because of that kind of the degree I had, obviously made sense. And I ended up working for a database agency and ended up learning a lot at the time, which I didn't fully grasp or understand, which was building segments and segmentation, which is essentially cookie tracking. What everybody knows is cookie tracking now. So every website that you go on, like I basically helped understand how to set those up and what they meant and how, they would use remarketing tools to make a lot of money. And that was in 2012, I think. So it feels like a long time ago. And then from that, it just kind of all evolved. Ended up working in customer insight, doing a lot of database analysis and feeling like a complete imposter because I didn't do, like, I hadn't touched maths since GCSE. And I can remember being terrible at statistics in university and just having to I remember having my first ever tutor in university because I was like, I need to get through this module. So feeling like a complete imposter, but actually because of the creativity aspect, being quite good at it, because it was kind of putting together what was retail data, which is consumer shopping data. I was interested in fashion, and actually making sense of it and going and making it very profitable, which companies like. So suddenly being that young, you know, that 20-year-old in the room that people want to listen to, because you're talking in business, like talking sense, you know, you've got like good business acumen, and you're kind of like, oh, this is like quite a good job to be in, and kind of sort of evolving from that into product, because product is obviously a natural sort of progression from those roles. So I hope I've explained that well, but I've only ever known tech really, or tech products.
But that's interesting that you found quite early on, you know, what you were interested in, and you've been able to use that and graft, like you said, as much as you needed to get that.
I feel like much of it is graft, much of it is wanting to earn good money. And I would say at times I probably felt like I was a square peg in a round hole, because it's not that working with numbers was challenging, working in product was challenging, but actually sometimes looking back on your career, it's not always like, I think it's better to look back at it with hindsight and make sense of it. Because like Ria said, when you're in it at the time, you know, my goals probably in my 20s was to make more money and to become, you know, fully independent. And technology was giving me that. And that's what I was going after. So some of it is coincidence. And I do look back on it now and think, oh gosh, I was quite lucky, because I think having worked and done that degree and worked in that industry, it did give me a lot, you know, and it was coincidental. So some of it.
Do you know, as you were talking there, Leanne, what you do really well, because you've got that background in, like you said, product and tech, but when you bring that to the team, because not everyone, and there's probably a perception that because InnovateHer does what it does, that everybody is very tech focused in the team. I'm probably one of the
that can be a perception, like across tech companies in general, whereas it's just not like that at all, because there's so many roles within a company. Yeah,
completely. Like we do have a number of gamers and stuff in the organization that, you know, there is a complete range, but I do think what Leanne does really well, and what works really well for somebody who does kind of manage and lead the product side, is being able to bring those two worlds together. And Leanne does that really well, and does that really well, like for the rest of the team, sort of explains it in common sense, makes it real, if that I don't know if that works, but but yeah, there is a whole range of people within our team and their backgrounds, and some are very tech, and some, like mine, aren't tech at all, more operational, but have been drawn here because of the impact and the positive impact and stuff. So
that's a good thing to point out. I think it's like I said, there's so many different roles within a tech company, and everyone will have a very different experience of tech and how confident they are with it. So it's always good to kind of any sort of stereotypes we can subvert is always a good thing. So thinking about both your roles, what would you say are some of your favorite aspects? Did you want to go first, Ria, about the things that you really like about your role?
This is where I think the retail commercial part of me has never left, because I love growth. I love I love it when we bring in more funding, more partners, and I really love it when we reach more students. And for me, just seeing the numbers, whether it's on a weekly basis, just with students and schools signing up to events, or whether it's each quarter or each year, seeing those really big numbers is amazing. Last year we reached, just in the year, over 13,500 students. Like that's a massive amount of students. And that's through all of our different activity that we run, but that's a huge amount of students, and I love seeing those numbers and seeing them grow. So that's the part that I really enjoy, and not just the numbers, like it's seeing all the hard work that everybody puts into that, and the different ways we've tried things, the different ways we're reaching out to schools, how we're talking to schools, how we're talking to our partners, seeing all of that pay off. That is definitely one of the biggest things that I love. And then, do you know what? I think it's the culture that we've got at InnovateHer, and that now I'm lucky enough to have a role to help maintain and enhance, hopefully, and build on that culture, because it is an amazing culture.
Yeah.
Looking back again over my different careers that I've had and the teams that I've worked in, they've all had really strong cultures, and that is really important.
That's great that you've had that across.
Yeah, like positive cultures as well, strong for the right reasons. So being able to be part of that, being able to shape that and keep that a place that people want to work, and that people, you know, just, we aren't a huge organization, like Leanne said, we don't have these huge big budgets, but there is always things we can do, whether that's just in how we're talking to each other, whether that's what we're offering, understanding what our team need. That's, I love being part of that.
That's awesome. And what about you, Leanne? What are your favorite parts of your role?
I love working with other people. So getting like, and obviously the InnovateHer team, we do have, as Ria said, a really strong culture. I think the thing I struggle with in my other roles was the cultural aspects of the business. So that's why I really sought to look for a role where the company was value driven, and where I felt I could be entirely myself, which is so nice to say. Like at InnovateHer, I
That's
can.
lovely. Yeah.
There's a level of integrity. There's great communication, respect. You know, there's been periods of time in other businesses where, you know, you're listening in meetings or part of conversations where people are, you know, disrespectful or definitely don't have integrity values there. And obviously when a business is driven by money, it's hard to truly kind of live those values. So when you live, like I said, live, because I suppose now InnovateHer is part of my life, and it's not bringing negativity, it's not bringing stress, it's a chance to work still in product and work with great people, making things for obviously students that hopefully they enjoy, and is for a positive effect on society. And I think that combined with this great culture, it just makes you feel at ease. And I think a lot of people maybe aren't aware that that is a choice. Like you can choose to work and live in a way that is actually leaves you feeling at ease. I think what sometimes concerns me, like societally, where we equate like work to stress, and the harder you work, like UK culture is like work hard. It's nothing on America, but it's like work hard, burn out, you know, keep going. And I think it's so refreshing that actually you can work in a supportive culture where you're listened to, where values are called out, where values are used and practiced, and still, you know, still be commercial and still be thinking about like, are we doing this the right way? Have we wasted money there? Should we be doing this a better way? I think we all need to be, you know, growing to be better people, you know, and that exists. And I don't think a lot of people are. Maybe it's a bit of a privilege as well. Maybe it's a bit of a privilege to be in this position too. I don't know. But it's just refreshing, I guess. I think working for a social enterprise in general is a good thing.
Yeah, different experience. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting what you said. I think sometimes people do get so sort of stuck into work, and maybe they don't realize that they're not necessarily happy there, or you know, it's not really meeting their values or what they need as well. So yeah, that's really interesting. And it's interesting both of you had some similar crossover there as well on what you really like about your roles. A lot of it's definitely related to that culture, which is really interesting.
I think most of the team would say that, actually. In fact, I know most of the team would say that, because I think we've asked
Well, I
them.
know Chelsea has said that. I mean, obviously, I know she's
Oh, good.
a CEO,
Yeah.
but she has said similar before.
Okay. I do.
think
Yeah,
it's
it's a really strong culture, but that's really important as well. Like, we are also a fully remote team. So we are, whilst InnovateHer started in the Liverpool area, and so there is more of a concentration of the team up there. Like I said, I'm right down in the southwest of the country. We've got people in the southeast. We are all over. So to keep that strong culture, we have to be really like intentional about what we do. And we are, like, we've got, you know, whether it's our meeting face to face or the quarterly socials that we do, or the regular team meeting that we have every single week, and how we just check in and share a little bit about what's going on, what our Slack channels are, all of that stuff. We've had to sort of curate it quite intentionally to keep that going. And you can normally sense it by the end of a quarter where we've not seen each other for a couple of months. Everyone's like, you can just feel that we need to come together as a team, because everyone's a little bit like, am I working on the right thing here? I don't know about this. And does that person know about that? And that's all much better by the time we've had the face-to-face, we've had a couple of days together. It's almost like pressing reset. So yeah, it's an important part for us.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's great that you can have that, still keep that culture, even though, you know, obviously being remote, and I know obviously you've got a lot of flexibility around hours and things as well. So it's great you're able to balance all of that and still communicate really well with each other.
Yeah,
which is great. So what would you say, kind of question for both of you really, what have your experiences of working in tech been like in general?
Do you want to go, Leanne?
So the reason I work at InnovateHer is because of my experiences in tech.
That's fair.
I've experienced many different things, whether that is like a pay gap.
Yep.
I've had someone come in and I've managed them and they came in on the same salary as me.
Wow.
I've had comments on potentially not dressing appropriately in a colourful, bright Sarah suit and wearing, you know, bright lipstick, because it was different to like a different in a male dominated environment.
Yeah.
These are all the negative aspects, bear in mind. And just having that kind of I'm doing this like hand gesture as in like kind of just friction between having so much ambition and drive and not being met with the acceptance of that. So not progressing the way I wanted to progress, not leading a team the way I wanted to lead a team, and just it being a bit exhausting, actually. And I know I'm meant to say, and there's loads of positive aspects that have come with that. You know, like I said, on those occasions where I have had people who I've either like mentored or trained or managed, and the rewards with actually being hopefully a good person to work for. It was hard. I think I don't think it just applies for technology, but when you either graduate or you finish your apprenticeship and you go into full-time work, if your values are like, I want to be honest, I want to lead with clear communication, I want things to be done this way, what you're not told is how to like cope when things don't go like that. That's something that comes over the years, and there's been a lot of tears, there's been a lot of, you know, training needed on the side, a lot of difficult conversations. So you have to really learn to advocate for yourself. You have to learn how to have difficult conversations with people who feel much superior to you or senior to you, and being able to hold the room and actually say, I don't think this is right. I actually would have done things differently. I don't agree with what you're saying. And it's actually finding the confidence to do that. And actually in technology, in between those years of, you know, graduating, those were like what felt like quite early stages in lots of agencies being developed, digital agencies. And now it all makes sense working at InnovateHer. When I did the health check that we do with companies about diversity and equality, I was like, oh my gosh, this all makes sense. This is why I felt the way I felt, because I was in a male-dominated environment, working with like a lot of developers, BAs, and just feeling frustration and feeling exhausted because like I just wasn't either, you know, being heard in the same way or you know, getting to the place where I wanted to get to. And I think that's my why for working at InnovateHer, because actually I do think, I can't say now because for the last 6 years, obviously I've been with InnovateHer, you know, a female dominated business where communication and collaboration is at the forefront and difficult conversations happen and then you move on. Whereas when I was in private sector, it was totally different, you know. So it definitely, I always felt those classic things that you read and hear around women in business and kind of feeling like you have to put on this tough exterior and this kind of like drive because like to be heard. And I think that's kind of, yeah, I think the industry, whilst it could be really different depending on what brand you're working for or, you know, all of that, it's an industry that if you're really good at what you do, you can do really well. Like financially, flexible working all over the world, you know, you can really go here, there and everywhere. But it's not easy. I wouldn't say it's easy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, thank you, Leanne. Yeah, it's important to be realistic about it and, you know, about the challenges that are there and barriers, you know, that are still happening for women across the industry. So,
yeah, I think it is. I don't know whether like we're in such a lovely environment and kind of our network is like almost like an echo chamber around being, you know, and sometimes I wonder like if I was to step out now and go and work in private sector and go and be in those roles, like what would that feel like? I think it's quite interesting to, I think alongside your technical skills is the skills of confidence and speaking and actually influencing others and moving forward. And I think equally they're both important, like beside each other, because you do need to be able to kind of, if that's what you want, obviously, in terms of moving forward and like progressing in technology, then you do need both.
Yeah. And what about you, Ria, as well? Because obviously you said that, you know, you're not from a technical background, but obviously you're working for a company that, you know, does do a lot of tech. So what has that experience been like for you?
I was thinking about that as Leanne was talking, because actually my sort of starting in my career, I worked in retail, I worked in fashion, they were female brands. And that was the first sort of 12, 15 years of my career.
Yeah.
So even whether it's tech or whether it's any other sort of organization, and I've got, again, friends who work as engineers and things like that, it was really quite alien to me that you wouldn't be surrounded by powerful women. And likewise, I went to an all-girls school. So actually, for the first, how old am I? I don't know. For the first, nearly half of my life, for me, even though I know that that's a challenge, I actually wasn't directly exposed to having to really push for my voice to be heard or to feel out of place when I walked into a meeting room or anything like that. If anything, it was the reverse, and you actually had, you know, men working on any team, whether it was, you know, operations teams, visual merchandising teams, or tech teams, anything at all, they would be the ones that would probably feel more out of place, certainly in the retail. So it's, that doesn't take away, like, my passion is still really there for it, but I almost haven't had to do that.
You haven't had that experience.
Yeah. But from a tech
Directly.
perspective, again, because working in retail, that's probably one of the industries that has been one of the most impacted through technology, going from in store, you know, people going onto the high street shopping in stores, to then e-commerce and online shopping. And I was working in retail, and I was in head office during that time, and I remember there was probably 2 people in the website team when I first started. And then every year there would be like an office move around, and this team would, there'd be another few people, then there'd be another 5 people, then there'd be more. And this team was growing and growing and growing. And every year the office was like moving around, trying to make room for this much bigger e-com team. And I always think back to that. And I don't know who it was, but somebody said, like, we don't even know what the next roles are going to be in this team. But we know that we need, I think it must have been a budgeting conversation. We need X amount of money for X amount of heads to come. But they couldn't even tell you what they were going to be. So that was me kind of looking into, like, and seeing that around an industry. And it was fascinating. I think then moving, when I started working with founders and startups, it was seeing the potential that was there through technology, whether you were like leading a tech company and sort of starting it, or whether, you know, they were it was existing and then they were working in it. It was seeing that potential, but seeing the potential for the positive impact it can make, kind of like tech for good. Like, we've got a course for our students which is called Tech for Good, and I found that, I think I said before, really inspiring, really empowering, particularly when you team that with like a female founder that by that point I just connected with me. You just can't not be inspired by somebody. So that's kind of how I've experienced tech, because my background isn't from a technical perspective or done a technical role. And I actually feel quite lucky, unless I'm just completely naive to some of it, I actually feel quite lucky that my journey, I have been surrounded by so many powerful, amazing women, girls, and all the rest of it.
It must have been really inspiring, to be fair, to
it was the norm. It was the complete norm to have a female CEO, full female leadership teams. You could challenge that that's probably not the right balance to have as well now, but that's been my norm. So for me, not to voice, like Leanne, you were talking about voicing things in meetings or the confidence bit, they just weren't. There were probably other things that I would question, like my confidence on, but those things
just
weren't.
not that specifically.
And I think as well, I learned the confidence, not necessarily in tech, but in anything. I learned the confidence, and it was a learning curve, because I didn't start off feeling like this. If I didn't know something, I'm okay to say I don't know that. And I'm happy to ask for somebody to explain that to me once, twice, 3 times if I need it to. And I can communicate that really clearly and confidently, and it doesn't affect me. And so now, being in a tech more led organization, I've learnt that skill. So now when I come and ask, you know, something, whether it's in a meeting or a bigger, whether we've had AI roundtables recently, so we had quite a few different conversations. I'm not an AI expert. I'm completely all right with asking things I don't know, and I don't feel I have to know everything. Like, so I do think that has really helped. I wasn't like that at the beginning of my career. I felt like I needed to know everything.
That's interesting.
But I've learned over time, I really don't need to know everything. And I don't even need to know everything that my team do because I've got the trust that they are doing it. That's why they're there. But that confidence has come about over a number of years. So I think that helps now, being in the tech sector, coming in with that, and coming in with that mindset. I don't know how I would have felt with that, you know, sort of 15 years ago.
Yeah, if you did feel like, oh, I don't know any of this, if you would
Yeah.
have had that confidence to ask for help.
Probably have tried to have a conversation about it, and it would have massively backfired. Whereas now I wouldn't. I would just ask them to explain that.
I think that's a really good piece of advice, like being able to just openly ask like what something means.
Yeah,
if you can understand it more, especially if you're in like a more technical role as well. Is you always need to like be learning how and when software's changed, and like and
that's true. It's always changing. Everyone's learning constantly, aren't they? In a tech
I think that's a really, really good piece of advice. Being able to have the confidence to ask that.
Yeah. Well, you can't possibly know everything, can you?
No.
You can't.
And I do think when you're starting out, I can remember like I'm going to call it a drill because that's what it felt like. And it was this like know your numbers drill. And it was when I was going to see retail clients who, you know, relied heavily on what was then email marketing to make them a substantial amount of money every month, and going into these huge offices all over the country and just remembering like, I need to know all of these numbers. If they ask me a question, I need to know why that's dropped, why that's increased, and be able to confidently respond and know what I'm talking about makes sense. And I think early in your career, you're just like, oh, like, you know, I need to prove myself.
Yeah. Know everything and be able to prove yourself.
Know everything. Be on the defense. Not be on the defense. That's the wrong piece of advice. Never be on the defense.
No, don't.
Be able to respond confidently and be like, I got that. I managed to be really clear there. And I do think when you're kind of on that side, it can be a bit nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Basically your 20s.
Yeah, pretty much.
You start learning curve in your 20s, isn't there, somewhere?
Yeah, always. So speaking of advice, what career advice do you both have for if anyone is interested in careers like yours? Ria, did you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't know what advice really I have. My big thing at the points in my career where I've either decided to go down a certain route or not go down a route and do a U-turn and do a completely different route, they have been driven by ultimate, like, my values. And it sounds really fluffy, but as in like what's really important for me. They have been driven by that. And so I would say, if you can, like, a lot of people do work on their values and stuff now. I don't know when I did it. I think mine was sort of mid to late 30s. But I remember when the penny dropped, I genuinely don't know how I got through my life up until I'd done that piece of work around what's important to me. Or maybe it also might be an age thing. It might come with age that you kind of realize a little bit more what's important to you. So I don't know prior to that what I was necessarily using as a guide to help me make decisions. But since I really tuned into that, got really clear on that, and could use that to help me make decisions about my career, that was like a real moment for me and has been really helpful, not just with like the type of industry or the type of sector that I'm working in, but just the culture that I wanted to be surrounded by, the practicalities. Do I need something that's flexible? Where do I want to live? Where do I want to work? What do I want my daughter to remember about this time? Do I actually want her to remember me picking her up or dropping her off? Or does that not important? And there's no right or wrong, because everybody's different. But for me, there were certain things that were important. And that is what led me to choose certain career paths and not other ones. So that's probably one of the main bits of advice, is like, start to just sort of really understand what is important to you and try and lead with those. And the other one is just ask. I'm a big question asker. We had a team meeting this morning, and after every team does sort of an update, you could probably put money on I'm the first person to put my hands up and ask a question. But that, just ask questions. Like you're not sure about something, you don't understand something, ask questions. But also with the bit that I talked about before around, I'm just fascinated about the brain and the mindset and why we do what we do. Like, I love a great question that gets you to kind of stop and think. So quite often I listen to podcasts if I'm out walking or running, and if I stop walking or I stop running, you know that's been a really good question, because I actually can't do anything else other than stop. So that would be my other one, just around really like asking lots of questions to people, finding out about different careers, finding what's possible, different routes people have taken in, because you can get really kind of, you don't always see the options that are available. You don't see the routes that are available, but there are normally 1,000,001 ways to get to a destination. And other people might have done it differently that might work better for you, or nobody might have done it your way, but that doesn't mean that you can't. So kind of just being curious about that. I think they would be my two. I don't know if you call them career advice.
No, those are great. Those are brilliant. Is there anything that you would add, Leanne? Any other advice?
Just to try different roles and not be afraid to move around. I think I read a really great post recently where this woman was like, I've had 25 jobs in 12 years or something. And I was like, yeah, because she's moved around and she's tried things, she's picked up projects, she's done different things, and those all just build your skill set. And equally, you know, I'm sat here, I've worked at InnovateHer for like 6 years, and it's shifted and changed, and with that you get to really hone in on the company and how you can evolve with the company. But I've tried so many different things at InnovateHer and picked up different projects, and I think just saying yes to opportunities that you get in roles, like, and I think anybody who's kind of on the cusp of leaving education or leaving an apprenticeship and has this like window of opportunity, hopefully, you know, to get in somewhere, it's just going for it and then working your way inside there to then seek the next opportunity, and just just going for it really and trying different things.
I love that. That was brilliant advice as well. My last question really is, and I might have a little glimpse of it already from our conversation earlier, but what change do you want to see in the tech industry, and how do we get there?
Do you want to go, Leanne?
Oof.
I know.
Okay. What change do I want to see specifically in the tech industry? I want to see more profits going to good causes.
I like that.
I want to see fairer salaries.
Yeah.
And I want to see a bit more value driven business, and kind of I can't help but gravitate towards AI and social media and what that means and how that will come together. Like, with, I think because my background's in data, just kind of how that will evolve, and if there will be regulations and care taken with people's data and honesty with it. I think those are my three huge things that I want to see balance out and even out. I think it's an industry that's like just evolved and at such a rapid rate that there's a lot of catching up to do when it comes to kind of making sure it's done right and in a
Yeah, that's completely fair enough. And especially, you know, obviously you mentioned AI and social media and stuff. I think there's a huge amount of discussion around ethics and bias and, you know, so much at the moment. So yeah, I think it would definitely be interesting to see how that evolves. And I hope it evolves in a good way, but equally I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't. So it would be nice if it did though. What about you, Ria?
Yeah, I would say I kind of see like there is a lot of happening already in the tech sector, particularly like we see it with the organizations that we work with, but there's two areas that perhaps aren't quite being tapped into quick enough, maybe. And that's exactly the area that we work with. So it's actually going back to the beginning, almost like upstream or downstream. I never get that one right. But going back to the beginning, which is around the education bit, and it could not be more important when we're talking about AI, because it's not just about, do, you know, companies or organizations that are creating the AI now, do they have enough women working in them? Is actually like, well, no, who's building those systems? Because the information that's going to be the AI, whether it's ChatGPT or anything else, is going to be giving out that people are going to be using, that's already got a really strong bias in it, and that probably isn't favorable. So there's that piece there. But there's also, which does, and again, it's probably because it resonates with me because I'm in this sort of age group. Well, actually, I'm over this age group. It's age 35 to 40. But my understanding is that like over 50% of women that are in the tech sector in that age group, they leave the tech sector. Now, not all of them, but what are those reasons that they're leaving? Are they because some decide to go and have a family? Are they because they hit kind of a glass ceiling? Is it a pay thing? Is it a flexibility thing? Is it, you know, they want more purpose-led? I don't know what it is, but that's a lot of women leaving the tech sector.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel like there's these two
and experienced people as well. So
really experienced people, and those people, if they're leaving the tech sector completely, they are not going to be in those leadership roles that are then encouraging again the education. So that those bits for me, like really early on education, and that like we've started working with some primary schools, just testing it to start with, but we've had a fantastic response from the teachers in those schools, from the students in those schools, and they've been physical, like going in, doing assemblies for them, and they've loved it. And it's really got those primary school teachers thinking about what messages they're giving to their students already around careers and tech and all the rest of it. So there's a big piece there working with, you know, younger students, but also there is this proportion of women that do leave and are leaving the tech sector, kind of at that age group. So I would love to see the tech industry really tackling those. And I always like things done yesterday, so it would be great if it was
get a move on that
quicker than it is at the moment. So yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much. It's been great.
Thank you.